Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to be taking a look at reframing. We'll be using Scott Adams's book, Reframe Your Brain. We're going to explore how shifting your perspective can help you be more successful, happier, and maybe even give you a mental edge, you know, in everyday life.
Right. You're probably already familiar with reframing, even if you don't realize it. Think about the last time you took a frustrating situation and turned it into a learning opportunity. That's reframing.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah. It's kind of like when you are feeling like the glass is half empty, but you choose to see it as half full instead.
Exactly. But Adams takes it further. He argues that our brains can really adapt. And if we consistently focus on a different perspective, we can actually rewire our brain to see the world differently. It's like we're doing neuroplasticity ourselves.
Right. Wow. Okay. I'm interested already. Adams really dives deep into how we can use this reframing to be successful. And one of the first things I saw, and it was super interesting, was his concept of the power of deciding. He says we should move from wanting success to deciding to succeed.
Yeah, and he argues that there is a huge difference between those two mindsets. Even though it's subtle, when you want something, it's just a wish. But when you really decide that you are going to do it, well, it becomes like a commitment. And that changes how you approach it.
Yeah. He talks about how when he got a syndication contract for Dilbert, he promised himself he would never look back and say, oh, I didn't work hard enough.
Right, yeah. And that internal shift from wanting to deciding, it gives him so much determination. And it really helped make Dilbert so successful. So it's like instead of hoping to be successful, he just claimed it as his.
So it's about taking ownership of your goals and not letting anything stop you, whether that's self-doubt or obstacles.
Exactly. And, this idea of claiming success, and it connects to another one of his reframes.
Yeah.
Embracing embarrassment.
Okay, that one made me cringe a little bit when I first read it. Who actually wants to embarrass themselves on purpose?
I know, right?
Yeah.
But Adams, he changes the script. He says we should see embarrassment as an investment, not a bad thing. He even says that the next time we are about to be embarrassed, we should think chotching instead of, oh no.
I love that. It's like taking those moments we try to avoid and turning them into opportunities for growth and, becoming more resilient.
If you think about it, we've all had embarrassing moments. But those moments often teach us the best lessons.
Okay, I'm seeing the potential here. Now, what about boredom? Adams has a really unique perspective on that, too.
Yeah, it's really interesting. He doesn't think boredom is bad. He thinks boredom can make people take action. He tells readers to gamify boredom. He wants us to try things that we know we aren't good at.
Whoa, that's definitely not something I normally do. I usually try to avoid the things I know I'm not good at.
Right. But that is exactly how we can grow. When we get out of our comfort zone, we can find talents and things we didn't know we had, and possibilities.
I really like the idea of turning boredom into a challenge.
It's like a reminder that being uncomfortable can be rewarding.
Okay, so we talked about deciding to be successful, being okay with being embarrassed, and turning boredom into a game. So what else does he have for us to be more successful?
Well, one of the things that was really, that really stood out to me was his 10% rule. It's a good way to not feel pressure to be perfect and successful at everything.
Yeah, Adam says that he isn't successful at everything either, but that's okay. And he says that it's important to try different things.
He focuses on the fact that even if only 10% of the things you try are successful, if you try lots of different things, you'll have big wins eventually. It takes all the pressure off being perfect, and it makes you want to experiment.
And he doesn't just do this in one area of his life, right? He uses the 10% rule with his cartoons, with writing, even public speaking.
Exactly, yeah. It's all about the long game. And he sees setbacks as information, not failures.
This makes me wonder how the 10% rule could be applied to other things too, like marketing or even relationships.
It's like the Pareto principle.
Yeah.
But for self-improvement, focus on the 20% of your efforts that give you 80% of your results.
Okay, let's change gears a little bit. Adams also talks about mental health reframes. I think lots of people are interested in that.
Yeah, and he has some interesting things to say about managing your ego, and dealing with bad thoughts. He even talks about reframing reality itself.
One of the best reframes he talks about, and maybe even the best in the whole book, is the idea that your ego is the enemy.
He says we should challenge the idea that our ego is our true self. Instead, he says it's something that stops us from growing and being happy. He even says we should put ourselves into situations that might hurt our ego.
I can see how that would make you more resilient, but it sounds scary.
It definitely takes humility and being aware of yourself, but when you are free from needing other people to tell you you are good, it is really liberating.
This makes me think about another reframe he has, the shelf space concept.
Oh, right. The shelf space concept is like a metaphor, and it helps us understand how the way we think and what we believe changes our experiences.
Yeah, it's like our minds are shelves, and they don't have much space. If we fill them with negative thoughts and worries, we don't have room for good thoughts.
He says we should be aware of what we are putting on our shelves, and we
Yeah.
should choose to focus on things that make us feel good, not things that make us feel bad.
So we're trying to get rid of negativity with positivity.
Exactly. And, talking about changing how we see things, Adams also talks about the simulation hypothesis.
All right, now things are getting really mind-bendy.
Yeah, the simulation hypothesis, the idea that we might be living in a computer simulation, has become really popular in recent years. And although Adams doesn't say it is true, he does encourage people to think about the possibility and what it would mean for us.
Yeah, it definitely makes you question reality. How does this connect to reframing?
Well, if we are living in a simulation, who says we can't change the code? Maybe the limits we think we have aren't really there.
Oh, so it's like saying that instead of having to follow the rules of a game, we can learn how to hack it.
Yeah. And maybe we have more power to change things than we realize. People like the philosopher Nick Bostrom and even Elon Musk have talked about this idea.
That's definitely something to think about. What do you think about the simulation hypothesis? Does it change the way you live your life?
It's a cool concept. I don't know if I believe it fully, but it makes me wonder about what reality is and the things we can do to change our life.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be thinking about that. So we talked about reframing for success and mental health. What about our social lives?
He has some really useful advice for dealing with social anxiety, being good at conversations, and even using storytelling.
One of the things he talks about that I really like now, even though I didn't like it at first, was the 10% attractiveness rule.
That one can really change things for people,
Yeah.
especially people who have social anxiety or are scared of rejection.
It makes you question that fear of not being found attractive. He says instead of focusing on the 90% of people who aren't attracted to you, you should focus on the 10% who are attracted to your unique qualities.
If 10% of the people you meet are attracted to you, you can have lots of great relationships and a good social life.
It's like trying to find your niche audience, but for love.
Exactly. And this is like another one of his social reframes, solving social awkwardness.
I used to hate going to parties and stuff because I felt like I was going to say the wrong thing.
Adam says we should think of parties as opportunities to help other people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Almost everyone feels some social anxiety.
So instead of worrying about how awkward I feel, I can try to make other people feel okay.
Yeah. And it's a good thing to do because it makes the experience better for everyone.
I like that. What about storytelling? How does that connect?
Well, Adams believes that storytelling can connect people and make you more memorable.
He actually gives good advice for telling good stories, too. He says to keep it simple, make people curious, and have a clear ending.
He also says to use body language and emotion to really bring the story to life. It's about making people feel something and connecting with them through what you share.
So reframing can make us better storytellers. I never thought of that.
It's all about finding the right way to look at a situation. Even something simple, like telling a story.
Okay, so we talked about reframing for success, for mental health, and for your social life. What about for physical health?
He has some interesting reframes for how we think about food, exercise, and even our bodies.
One that was really interesting to me was his idea that overeating is a knowledge problem, not a willpower problem.
He says that we overeat because we don't actually know what our bodies need. He says that we shouldn't just try to eat less, but we should learn about food and nutrition.
So instead of relying on willpower, which is hard, we should learn about what our body needs and make good choices.
Exactly. And, this actually connects to his reframe about the power of habits.
Yeah.
He thinks we should create healthy habits. Then exercising won't feel like a chore.
I'm always trying to find ways to make exercise seem easier.
Well, he says that we should find things that we like to do and slowly start doing them more often, instead of forcing ourselves to do hard workouts that we hate.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about making exercise part of our lives, not just something we do for a little while.
Exactly. Another reframe he talks about is that sugar is poison.
Whoa, that's a bold statement. But I guess it would make you not want to eat unhealthy foods.
It's about changing how we see those foods, from seeing them as a reward to seeing them as something that could hurt us.
Okay, so we talked about reframing for success, mental health, social life, and physical health. Is there anything else we can reframe?
Well, Adams has a whole section about something he calls reality reframes. These are probably the most interesting ideas in the whole book.
Okay, I'm ready. Tell me everything.
All right. One that really makes you think differently is the two movies analogy. He uses it to explain how different people can see the same thing and understand it completely differently.
So it's like we're all watching different movies, but on the same screen.
Yeah. The things that have happened to us and the things we believe change how we see the world. And that means we will all see the same thing and think about it differently.
Yeah, it's like our reality is subjective. And if we understand that, we can be more understanding of other people.
Exactly. Are you ready to learn even more about reality reframes?
Yes! Tell me everything. I'm so ready.
Let's talk about another reality reframe that Adams talks about. This one is about the mind-reading fallacy. It basically says that we can't really know what other people are thinking.
Oh, man. I used to think I was so good at knowing what people were thinking.
Yeah, I think we all do it.
It caused so many problems in my life.
Yeah, Adams says that we usually just assume things about other people based on our own thoughts and biases. So when we try to read someone's mind, we are really just thinking about ourselves.
So, like, we're just trying to prove our own ideas, right? Instead of actually trying to understand the other person.
Exactly. He says we should focus on how people act and what they say, not on what we think they're thinking.
That makes a lot more sense. What other reality reframes does he talk about?
Well, there's one called the basket case theory. It's actually pretty funny, but it makes you think.
Okay, tell me about that one.
He says that when you really get to know people, you realize that everyone has their own problems and insecurities. Everyone is a little bit messed up.
It's like that saying, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about.
Exactly. So this reframe reminds us that it's okay to not be perfect, and we should be kind to each other.
Yeah, it's good to remember that. So are these reality reframes like all there is?
Oh, no, these are just a few examples. There's so much more to reframing.
So how do we actually do it? How do we reframe things?
Adams explains it really clearly. It's actually pretty easy.
I like how he makes it seem simple.
So the first thing you have to do is figure out what you want to reframe.
So instead of just saying, I want to be happy, I should say something more specific like, I want to be more confident when I'm around people.
Yeah, exactly. The more specific you are, the better your reframe will work.
Okay, so after you've decided what you want to reframe, what do you do next?
Well, then you have to come up with different ways to think about it.
Okay.
Be creative, and don't be afraid to challenge the way you usually think.
So, like, any idea is okay.
Exactly. Think about different possibilities, even if they sound crazy at first.
I can see how that would make you think about a problem in new ways.
Right. So then, after you have some different reframes, you have to try them out and see which one works best.
How do you know which one is the right one?
It's not really about finding the right one. It's about finding the one that works best for you in that situation.
So it's like an experiment.
Yeah, exactly. Try using the reframe for a few days and see how it makes you feel and how you act. If it doesn't work, you can try a different one.
Okay, that makes sense.
Adams also gives you some tips on how to make good reframes. He says to keep them easy to remember, and he even suggests using humor to make them stick.
I like that. I think humor can definitely change how you think about things.
Right. He also says to use reframes that make you want to do something positive.
So it's not just about changing your thoughts, but also your actions.
Exactly. Now, just so you can see how many possibilities there are, let's talk about some more reframes from the book that we didn't get to yet.
Okay, give me more.
Okay, well, here's one that's really important for people today. Social media is an addiction.
Yeah, that is true. I know I spend way too much time scrolling on my phone.
Exactly. And when we see social media as an addiction, we can start to see it more clearly, and maybe we can break free from it.
It's like we have to take control of our time and attention, right?
Yeah. Another reframe he has is that an insult is a confession.
Wait, what? How is an insult a confession?
Well, Adams says that when someone insults you, it usually means they're losing an argument or they have their own problems.
So instead of feeling bad about the insult, I should just think that they are the ones with the problem.
Yeah. It can help you to not take it personally.
I like that. It's like taking the high road.
Now, here is one that is good for people who are always criticizing themselves. You are learning fast. Look at all you've learned.
It's true. Sometimes I forget to focus on the progress I've made.
Yeah, it's about celebrating the good things, even if they are small, and recognizing that we are always learning.
I needed to hear that.
And here's another one that can help you when things are tough. Imagine the objects around you as virtual objects.
That sounds like meditation.
It is. When you change how you see the things around you, you can stop focusing on what's stressing you out.
So it's about realizing that our thoughts and feelings aren't always real, And we can choose how we react to things.
Exactly. So what do you think about reframing now? Are you ready for more?
Yeah, definitely. Tell me more. So we've been talking about all these different reframes in Reframe Your Brain. And I'm realizing that you can use reframing for almost anything.
Yeah, I know. It's such a useful tool. It's not just for specific things. It's like a way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use it for anything.
Right. We've talked about reframing for success, mental health, social situations, and physical health. But, like, what about when you're dealing with people and you get frustrated or feel like they don't understand you?
Oh, yeah. Adams has some good reframes for that, too. One of my favorites is this person might just need some information, empathy, or help organizing their
Oh,
thoughts.
yeah, that's a good one. I could see how that would be good if someone was complaining about something.
Yeah. Instead of just giving advice, which people don't always want, you could just try to be supportive.
So it's like listening to them and maybe helping them to understand how they are feeling.
Yeah, and it makes people feel more connected and like they can trust you.
It's like you're not trying to fix their problem, you're just helping them.
Exactly. And, we're talking about changing how we think about people. And Adams also has this reframe. People who complain don't always want solutions.
I like that one. Sometimes people just need to talk about how they feel.
Yeah, they just need to vent. And when we see complaining like that, we can be more patient and understanding.
So we don't have to solve their problems, we just have to listen.
Yeah, sometimes listening is the best thing you can do.
And this reminds me of another reframe that's good for when you're trying to make a decision with someone, but they can't make up their mind.
Oh, like when you're trying to pick a restaurant.
Yeah,
Got it.
exactly. When you go back and forth forever about where to eat, it's so tiring.
I know. Well, Adams has a good reframe for that. It's not about food. It's about the illusion of control.
So it's not about the food, it's about feeling like they have a choice.
Right. And when you understand that, you can be more patient and maybe even make a joke about it.
So instead of getting mad, I can just give them some choices and let them decide.
Yeah. It can make the whole thing a lot less stressful.
Okay, so we've talked about dealing with complainers, indecisive people, and people who just need some help getting their thoughts straight. What else does Adams talk about?
Well, he has one that I think a lot of people will like, especially people who don't like conflict. I need a co-pilot to share the blame.
I like that one. I always feel like I have to make the right decision, especially if it affects other people.
Yeah, this reframe is good because you don't have to do it alone.
Like, you're saying it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, and it's good to get other people's opinions. It can help you make better decisions.
It's like having someone to help you if you make a mistake.
Right. Now let's talk about humor. Adams has some interesting ideas about that too.
Okay, I'm ready to laugh.
One of the things he says is that humor is often about the usual patterns are violated.
So it's like when something happens that you don't expect.
Right. It's like when you see someone slip on a banana peel. It's funny because you don't expect it to happen.
And we can use that to tell better jokes and stories, right?
Yeah. It's about being creative and surprising people. Now, this next one is kind of serious, but it's important. Nothing lasts forever.
Yeah, that is true. But it's kind of sad.
It's true, but it also means that we should appreciate what we have right now.
Because everything changes.
Yeah, and when you understand that, you can be more open to change.
And appreciate the good things, even if they don't last forever.
Exactly. And speaking of change, here's one that's good for people who are going through a breakup. I have a million soulmates I haven't met yet.
Oh, I like that. It makes you feel hopeful.
Yeah, it reminds you that there are lots of people out there and you can find love again.
It's like there's not just one person for you. There are many.
Okay, now let's talk about power. Adams has this reframe that challenges how we usually think about who's in charge. The person with the best ideas is in charge.
Ooh, I like that one. It means that anyone can be a leader.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what your job title is. If you have good ideas, people will listen to you.
That makes me think of all the times I didn't share my ideas because I thought people wouldn't listen.
Yeah. But this reframe tells us that it's okay to speak up, even if you're not the boss.
Because everyone has good ideas.
Yeah. And remember how we talked about the mind-reading fallacy? Well, Adams has another reframe that can help with that. Humans are terrible at discerning motives.
Yeah. It's easy to assume we know why people do things.
Right, but we don't really know. So we shouldn't try to guess.
We should just focus on what we see and hear, not on what we think people are thinking.
Exactly. And here's another reframe that can help you when you feel like people are judging you. A stranger's opinion of you is little more than their personal diary entry.
So it's like what they think about you isn't really about you, it's about them.
Right. You don't need everyone to like you.
What other people think doesn't change who you are.
Exactly. Well, we talked about a lot today. We talked about success, mental health, how to deal with people, and even the way we see the world. It seems like we can reframe anything.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like reframing is a tool that can help you with anything.
And to wrap things up, I want to share one last thought from the book. You are the author of your experience.
Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah, it means that we have a lot of control over our lives.
It means we can choose how we think and feel, and that can change our lives.
So what about you? Is there something in your life you want to reframe? What can you change to make yourself happier or more successful?
Yeah, that's a good question for everyone to think about. And remember, you have the power to reframe your brain and make your life better. So until next time, keep thinking about these things. And we'll see you on the next deep dive.